Well, hi everyone and welcome back to The Wild Patch. If you are new here, my name is Leanne, this is my YouTube channel and we are all about gardening with maximum creativity and none of the faff. So if that's your kind of thing, you may want to consider dropping a subscribe so you can follow me along on my gardening journey, both here in the Polybunnel and in my allotment just up the road. Of course, if you aren't new here, I am also very grateful that you are with me today and I am looking forward to seeing what you all have to say in the comments. So, it has been almost 2 months to the day, yesterday in fact, since we built the Polybunnel, where I currently am now. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a recap video to tell you guys how we've been getting on with this. So where did we start? If you haven't seen the making of the Polybunnel video, which came out I think towards the end of February, go back and have a look after this video so you can see how far we've come. But essentially, this was a rabbit run. It's 2 metre by 3 metre, very sturdy structure. It's all properly built to protect rabbits from foxes and other predators. It cost me quite a lot of money. Essentially, I used to have rabbits outdoors. I now only have one rabbit and she's going to be 9 this year. So in her old age, I've moved it indoors so she can be nice and warm and safe and not lonely. We did consider getting another. Well, we did try to get another rabbit friend for her, but she just wasn't having any of it. So, grumpy old lady now lives indoors with us. She's got a really good life, trust me. So, having spent about £600-700 on this, I didn't want it to go to waste. I am not ready to get more rabbits yet, so I thought I would try and make use of the space by turning it into a greenhouse. I've never done that before, never built a greenhouse before, never had a greenhouse before. And funnily enough, when you look on YouTube or Google or anywhere else, there are no instructions on how to turn a rabbit run into a greenhouse. Weird, I know. Now there's one, at least. So we went about basically doing it the easiest way I knew how. So I had my stepdad Martin helping me. We took some polytunnel plastic and wrapped the entire thing. And now here we have what I'm calling the Polybunnel. And I have to say, it has been an incredibly useful space over the last 2 months when the weather has been changeable, to say the least. I'll be honest with you, it's been chucking it down with rain, freezing cold. It's been super hot and sunny and gorgeous. It doesn't know what it's doing. But it stays pretty stable in here, which has been fantastic. So I thought I might start you off actually with a little bit of a tour. You'll have seen in the intro to this video that when I first got the Polybunnel together, I threw some shelving and a workbench in here and kind of that was that really. So after a few weeks of working in here, I have now optimized it mostly for my own workflow, created spaces for plants, for tools, for pots, for all the other things I need. And it is continuing to evolve as I do, as a gardener. So why don't we start with a little bit of a tour? So first of all, a little check on the temperature, which I do every day and reset every day, just so I can keep up to date. So currently 25, which is a nice temperature to have inside a greenhouse / polytunnel. Lows overnight of 7.5. So it is starting to warm up. We're now in the middle of April, but still a little bit too cold for me to be comfortable to put some of my heat-loving plants out of here, like chilies. Highs of 36.5. It does get really, really hot in here. We have had highs of 50 over the last few weeks where we've had this most beautiful sunshine in the UK. But so far the plants seem to have been faring pretty well. So this is the view as we come in through the door, and literally every time I look at it, it makes me smile. Stepping inside, we'll start to my left where we have all of my large boxes of compost, perlite, gravel, all those other things there. That there is a tub of vermiculite. So I like to have that next to my workbench so I can quite easily just grab what I need. Above that, I then have my pots. So and this red box is used to make my compost mixes. Moving on up, we then have my tools. So we have things like gardening gloves, plant labels, plant food, pens, S-hooks, all sorts of useful things in here. And then some little trowels So we actually found this when we were clearing out my granddad's old greenhouse. My uncle found these little mini tools which he gave me. So those are safe in here, and they've actually come in quite useful. And then moving up, so these are over here. These are my dahlia tubers, which I'm keeping over here because I've been told not to get them wet until they've started sprouting. And some of them actually are. So very soon they'll be moving over to the other racks where they will get a decent water with all the other fruit and veg. So next we have the Workbench, which has been probably one of the best things I have ever bought in my entire life. This is an IKEA Workbench. I can put the details in the description box below, and it has just been brilliant. It's on wheels so I can move it around. I haven't needed to move it around too much yet, but I imagine when it gets really hot in here and I want to garden outside, it's going to be really, really useful. This Workbench has been great. I am being very strict with myself in cleaning it off after I've used it. And so far so good. And then I've got a tray that I do my mixing and my potting on in just to protect the top a little bit more. So then if we move up and round, I've been making use of the vertical space to hang up some of my tools. So a little watering can, my dust panning brush, and then another artefact salvaged from my granddad's greenhouse, his old sieve, which needs a bit of a clean up as it's starting to look a bit rusty. And then moving down, I've got another rack here, which has currently got all of my buckets and large pots and watering can on. This will probably change in the summer because I'm planning on moving these. These are just currently bags of used compost that I need to take up the allotment. And I'm going to use this as a space to grow my tomatoes. So the plan is to put the tomatoes in buckets along here, tie string up to the roof for support, and grow the tomatoes up there. It'll be nice and warm for them, and I will keep the door open so the pollinators can get in and out. Currently though, I'm using this space for strawberries in the hope that I'll get some early fruits. And actually I've got quite a few flowers on here already, so my luck might be in. I do have more strawberries up the allotment, so these are just hopefully going to be a bit of an early flush. And then this is where all the magic is currently happening. So we have all of my shelving for plants. Now it's looking a little bit empty at the moment because I haven't been brave enough to move my chilies out. But at some point, very soon, once the weather starts warming up at night, all of my chilies will be taking up these as well. So let's just have a quick look at what we've got up here. So these are my Cosmos apricot lemonade. I sowed these rather as part of my superhero seeds video a couple of weeks ago. They're doing well. I potted these on just the other day. And then we have quite a few tomatoes. So we've got Galena, chocolate vine, Brad's atomic grape, black cherry, tigerella, and then I have some micro dwarf ones here somewhere, but I can't see the label. But they are in there. Okay, then moving down. So we'll start here. At the back here, I've got snap peas. They are sugar bombs. They're doing quite nicely. And in front, I've got some flowers that I sowed recently. So these are billy buttons. They're like sort of yellow drumstick type things, which would be lovely in cut flower bouquets. And then eucalyptus, which I didn't have much hope for. The seed packet looked quite complicated, but actually they seem to be doing okay, although some of the seeds seem to have moved around, but that's fine. Moving over, spring onion lilia. I have absolutely terrible luck growing spring onions. So I sowed these 5th to 4th, so that would be 2 weeks ago now, and nothing. So I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong there. They were older seeds, so perhaps I need to use fresh. Maybe that's where I'm going wrong. We've got some mashed potato squash. These are spares. I have some more planted down on the next shelf that I'm going to be using. And then leeks. This is the Musselburgh leeks that I planted slightly later than my blue soleils, which I'll go on to in a moment. And then these two are pink banana squash, which I planted sowed at the end of March. Oh, actually, there's just one. Okay, well, just one. maybe one's all you need. Again, I didn't have much hope for these. These were old seed, and even when the seeds were brand new, I didn't manage to grow any, but we have one plant, so we'll see how we get on. Then, moving on, we're starting to get into the summer crops. So we've got 2 types of sunflower here, Floristan and a dwarf mix. They'll need potting on in a week or so's time. And then we have some mixed zinnias, Zinnia Envy, some Cactus Dahlia, and 3 different types of cosmos. And then we have some cucumbers. This is cucumber polan. These are just seeds from Lidl, I think. So these are going to need potting on. I'll probably do those today. Moving on down. Now, I have taken inspiration from Steve over at Digwell Green Fingers and have got some carnivorous plants in the hope that they'll keep the pests down a little bit in here over the summer. So I can't remember for the life of me what any of them are called. I've got a Venus flytrap. That was easy to identify. But yes, my gosh, it's windy. Wow. Okay, so yeah. So watermelon, sugar baby. I'm growing these as a bit of a challenge. I was talking to one of my colleagues about gardening and like how great it is. And he said, the only way I'd start gardening is if I could grow watermelons in the UK. That's sorry, Matt, that's my impression of you. And I said, you can. And he said, can you? And I said, watch me. Completely unsure of whether you can actually grow watermelons in the UK. So I got these. These are not your regular watermelon. They are much smaller fruit, which I'm hoping will allow them to ripen more fully in our lovely British weather. So that is those. We then have more cucumbers. This is Socrates. I believe from memory, these are more like small gherkin-sized ones. These would be great for pickling. And then we have more flowers. So we've got a penstemon and dahlia mix there, which are just starting to come up. And this is the rest of my mashed potato squash. And then let's just go over to this. So we then have, these are some of the other flowers that I sowed on my superhero seeds video. So we've got nasturtium, cornflower, and tagetes, which have done absolutely nothing. So I'm a bit annoyed by that. I may have to try again. Well, I will have to try again if I want some tagetes, and I do. So we will sow a few more and see what happens. And then on this shelf, we've got my single seed potato challenge. I filmed that video the other day. That's now up on my channel. So if you are taking part in Digwell Green Fingers single seed potato challenge, check that out. Best of luck. Hope you do well, but not as well as me. Thank you very much. And then there's just a cheeky chili out there that I brought out just to test the waters, and it seems to be doing all right. Moving up. Oh, actually, I have got some chilies out here. So we've got, these are all Anaheims, I believe. From memory, I think I brought these out because I just had hundreds of them. And so I thought I'll bring them out, and if I lose them, not a problem. If they come along, even better. And then these are mystery chilies. I did that typical garden thing and didn't label them. So, yeah. And then last shelf, we've got coriander, leek, blue soleils. A couple more weeks and these will be good to go up the allotment, I think. They're getting there. They need to be about pencil thickness. So maybe another sort of double in size there. We have a few different calendulas, Pink Surprise, Candyman, Zeolites. There's my Venus flytrap. I don't know what it is. Ever since I've been a kid, I've been really scared of these plants because I'm scared they're going to bite my finger off. Of course they won't, but you know. What's this one? Garlic kale. And then my scabious sternkugel. So as you can see, we've got plenty going on in here. It is providing a really excellent warm space to bring a lot of these plants on. Like I said, I'm still not super comfortable with bringing my chili plants out just yet, although the ones that are out here are doing absolutely fine. So maybe I'm just being a bit of a helicopter parent, but you know, what can you do? Because otherwise I'd have to sow them all over again and I would lose 3 months of growing, and I just really do not want to do that. That said, the tomatoes are out here. I was going to wait a bit later to put those out, but the wind! Anyway, the tomatoes are doing fine. So I think that is going to show that tender crops are doing absolutely fine out here. I'm going to be starting things like basil and courgettes soon. So that will be the ultimate test, really. I'm so sorry, guys, but the wind just got absolutely ridiculous and you couldn't hear a word I was saying. So I'm going to leave the footage in of me potting on some of my plants while I'm having a chat about how well the greenhouse is going on the usability. And I'm just going to have a chat over a voiceover. So sorry about that. So I guess the first thing to mention is the wind. When we built the Polybunnel, we wrapped the plastic as tight as we possibly could. And it just looks like it's not tight enough. And the worrying thing is obviously as the wind whips up, there is potential for damage. So I do need to do something about that. And I mean, looking at the weather today, I need to do something about that pretty quickly. I'm not an engineer or any sort of kind of technical building person, so any advice in the comments would be gratefully received. But I'm thinking of just getting some wood batons and screwing them to the outside of the structure just to stop the plastic from flapping so much. I think it's the amount that the plastic is moving that's going to cause a problem, and that's also what's causing the noise. So any kind of advice on that front would be gratefully received. The other thing that's not working so well, and I did flag this in the original video, is the roof in terms of water runoff. So again, when we built the Polybunnel with all the best intentions, we transformed the roof from a flat roof to a slight angle to allow water to run off. Unfortunately, what happened was, again, the plastic wouldn't wrap tight enough, so it's starting to pool in the middle of the roof. So it just means after heavy rain, I have to go in and kind of push the plastic up from the inside, and then the water runs off. So another thing to do for phase 2 would be to add a more solid roof. So I'm going to try and get my paws on some hard plastic to place over the roof to give us a runoff. The other thing I want to do at the same time, if I can, is install some guttering so that we can collect the rainwater and use that. So I think if anything's taught me over the last sort of few weeks, where we've had very, very dry and hot weather, unseasonably dry and hot weather, is that we need to harvest the rainwater where we can. So I'm going to think about how I can best do that with the Polybunnel. And then the other things, I guess, that aren't working so well but aren't the end of the world is the fact that it's placed onto AstroTurf. So I'm in a rented house. The garden is AstroTurfed. No, I don't love it, but I also can't do anything about it, and it means we don't have to buy a lawnmower for a house we don't own. But it does mean that there are weeds growing up underneath the AstroTurf, so I just need to keep on top of those. The other thing I've noticed is that there are a lot of ants all over my plants. I'll try and say that one quickly. So I'm a bit concerned that we might have placed the polytunnel over an ant's nest, or maybe they're just being attracted here because it's warm. But as long as they're not doing any damage, I'm not going to worry too much. It's not like there are hordes and hordes of them, so nothing to worry about too much right now. I suppose what I could do is get an indoor rug and place that down just as an extra layer of protection. It'll protect from the weeds, not from the ants so much. If I find one that's a good price, I might get hold of one. If not, it's not something I'm overly worried about. It's just more of an aesthetic thing. So other things in terms of the interior, I think my setup is working pretty well. I'm really enjoying having the big IKEA boxes for all of my sort of vermiculite, perlite, gravel, compost. It's nice to keep them separate. It's easy access. They're big enough, so I've got 2 60-litre boxes and 2 30-litre, I think they are. They've been absolutely brilliant. I would do that again, and I would highly recommend those for anyone looking for greenhouse storage. I've already mentioned the Workbench, which has been brilliant. I'm not sure of how waterproof the top is, which is why I've been keeping it clean and cleaning it off after I've used it and not watering on the wood, just to make sure. The shelving's been great. So these were from Argos. I can link them in the description box as well. They were pretty cheap actually, which is why I got them. And yeah, they've been absolutely fine for holding all the plants. I wouldn't put anything super heavy on them, but for you know, the amount of plants that I've got in here, they've been absolutely fine. And also, you know, they've got holes in the shelving, so all the water drips down as well. So that's been fantastic. I guess it would be interesting to see how the space transforms in the summer. So I'm going to be growing all of my peppers, tomatoes, melons and cucumbers in here. So that's quite a lot of plants and not a huge space to do it in. So we'll see how that goes. I think this is going to be a space that transforms seasonally. So for winter into spring, it's been brilliant so far. So I will do another video of phase 2 where I look at the windproofing and waterproofing, and then perhaps I'll do another review video in the summer if that is of interest, because the space is going to change around again, and it will probably change again in autumn. It will likely be more similar to how it is now for seed starts and things like that, but yeah, I think it's good to review it every few months just to see how a different space is evolving with how you're using it. Tripping over Molly's toys now. Sorry guys, I've had to come in. It was so windy out there, I could hardly hear myself think. So, to wrap up, gosh, you can tell it's windy because of the state of my hair. To wrap up, would I recommend building a polytunnel out of a rabbit aviary? Yes, if you already have a rabbit aviary. It's 2 months in and it is already working really, really well for me. Honestly, other than the really noisy wind, it's actually, you know, meeting everything I need it to do. So with a few tweaks in phase 2, I'm hoping we can make it a bit more of a quiet and calming space to work. Possibly get some of those weeds down and be able to harvest the rainwater. So stay tuned for that. So what I want to know is, would you ever consider doing something like this, or would you just save your money and buy a proper greenhouse? Let me know in the comments, and also let me know if you've done any weird and wonderful DIY projects in the garden. I would really, really love to hear about them. So that's it for me this week. Hopefully the weather's going to clear up and we'll be able to get up the allotment next week, because my sweet peas are dying to get out into the ground. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.